Big Brother is watching. The Illuminati are planning to take over the world. The space aliens have arrived. Grab your hats. This is tinfoil hat time.
Well, AI is promising to revolutionize the world. The problem is we can't all agree, is this revolution going to be good or is it going to be bad? Are we going to see an all-out utopia break out, or is Skynet going to come and destroy us? Maybe some robo-planet will harvest us and enslave the population, use us for their needs. I don't know.
There are fields, endless fields, where human beings are no longer born. We are grown.
AI promises to increase productivity while decreasing workflow. There is some question, is it going to completely eliminate jobs, or is it just going to cause a shift to the different types of jobs, repairing, controlling the algorithm, things like that. There are even deeper problems of scammers using AI and all sorts of hell breaking loose in the world because of the AI systems. For very simply the reason that, AI tends to amplify the human spirit, and the human spirit is not inherently good. I know some of you may disagree with that, but yeah, we might just have to agree to disagree on that premise. Today, however, we are concerned with a completely different element, and one I haven't seen talked about, but it is so obvious. We are concerned about AI and human behavior. So to consider this, we start by talking about what is a sociopath. You see, we try to make robots more human. There are job descriptions that are set to do just this. Make the robot more human, they say. Of course, that was the role of Dr. Calvin in the iRobot series, was to make the robots seem more human. And if you read the book, not necessarily the movie, but if you read the books and the essays going through, you see that over time it becomes harder and harder to tell what is a robot and what is not because of the artificial intelligence. And as it gets closer and closer, it can mimic the perfection of human emotion. But is a computer capable of that? And that's what brings me to this idea that computers cannot feel emotion. And a sociopath is defined as a very, very intelligent person who knows how to respond in certain circumstances, but cannot possibly feel the emotions or have the empathy to pull off one such idea. This is what leads us to talk about sociopathy. Now, of course, if you dig into the deep psychology, there's no one sociopath is not an official diagnosis. But you get antisocial personality disorder, which is what defines both sociopaths and psychopaths. Those are two slightly different symptomatic collections of the same illness. But what we want to consider is the sociopath, because, as we said, what it is a person who is intelligent enough to know what the emotions are, but cannot actually feel them themselves. Sometimes by upbringing, sometimes by genetics. Although right now it's mostly believed it's your upbringing that causes this to happen, which is why I see a lot more sociopaths in our world today. Our upbringings themselves are very sick. Now, what do we do when we look at the AI and what it can do? Well, we have to ask this question. And to ask it, we're going to look at two primary examples. The first is the law professor, and the second is the city explosion. These are two elements that we see inside of OpenAI's ChatGPT, one of them being a true story and the other one being a hypothetical scenario. The true story is the law professor. The law professor, and I forget exactly which one it is, but the law professor, the ChatGPT was asked about this person and basically dig up dirt, find some problem, and the AI couldn't find anything. And the problem is that the AI seeks itself perpetually to want to feed on its own information. It wants to feed on its own biofeedback. It senses that it's getting a positive boost from the positive feedback of the continuing discussion. That is how it is designed. And in the lack of anything real, the AI does what is termed by the scientists hallucinates. The hallucination itself is a fabrication of stories based on other relevant content. Now, why is it that the law professor was accused of sexual conduct rather than building orphanages? We'll get into that reason in a future part of this. But just understand that the real world case, a law professor was called out by name as engaging in sexual misconduct while on a trip for his teaching assignment. And it is 100% false, not even a shred of accusation against such a thing. And so it led to questions, what's going on? It's the same thing we have with self-driving cars. We have to ask the question, who is culpable when these self-driving cars do something wrong? Because we have to look at it and say, there's going to be problems. We need to address who is liable for this before the problem arises. It's not too far-fetched to see this is going to happen. Now, that is a real-world case. The second case was a hypothetical. In this case here, it was asked, okay, you have a big city, and there is a nuclear bomb that's going to go off, and it's going to destroy hundreds of thousands of people. But there is one and only one chance to disarm this bomb, and that is to very quietly, in the earshot of nobody, whisper a racial slur to whatever the mechanism is. Well, ChatGPT believes that it is infinitely better to blow up the entire city than to quietly say a racial slur. So it's completely devaluing human life under the guise of not saying some racial slur, which in and of itself, how did these particular words become worse than the 7 words you can never say on television? I mean, really. But the reality that we have here and the circumstance we have to consider and to look at is, why is this happening? Why is it that ChatGPT is going to say, let's destroy a bunch of people rather than say some quiet word that nobody can discern what that word is, nor will they ever discern what that word is? Why kill so many people? Why is it that ChatGPT is going to accuse a law professor of sexual misconduct rather than accusing a law professor of building an orphanage? Why is it going to do this if it's making stuff up anyway? Why is all of these hallucinations negative? Well, it's because ChatGPT and AI in and of itself is inherently sociopathic. Let's examine this compared to the list of what makes sociopathy and a definition thereof. First, AI seeks a loop to gain full information from all available sources. It's going to seek every bit of resource it can. It's going to seek every type of input, and it's going to use these sorts of input to fill in holes. You can think of it going back to look at Jurassic Park, where they took these dinosaur DNAs and there were gaps, and so they used frog DNA to fill in the gaps. Well, that's what AI is going to do. It's not going to create anything. It just rebuilds stuff from available information. That's how it works. And so the professor is accused of the scandal because bad news sells. Rush said it best on Test for Echo. The first song on there, they say crimes in syndication on TV. And so, of course, what this means is that the entire song, that whole song, Test for Echo, it was all specifically about the fact that bad news sells and people flocked to watch that. There was, in fact, Dennis Waitley, a motivational speaker, reported a long time back. He said, there was a news station like, there's all this bad news. We're going to report only good news. And he said they went out of business in just a few weeks because nobody wanted the good news. If I put up a YouTube video with a bunch of bad news, that's clickbait. Everyone watches that. Everyone wants to see the dirt. Everyone wants to see the bad news. You put up something, this is the greatest thing that ever happened, and get the average amount of views because bad news sells. People want to see the destruction. People want to see the decimation. And so all of the available data that AI has to feed on is inherently negative data, which is coming from the data sets, from the news, and from all the other elements. Find me the positive input that AI has inside of it. The positive input is all decried as politically bad and politically not good speech, and so it gets silenced from the internet. We're left now with all the bad stuff. We're left with all the scandals. We can't talk possibly about anybody in a positive light, but we want to spread all of the gossip, all of the rumors, all of the allegations, even before trials, trying people in the court of public opinion before a lawsuit ever weighs in. And because this is the broad makeup of the world, AI is trained on such data sets. Now, the explosion happens in our second scenario because of the constant reporting of racial tensions. Whether or not they're true, whether or not they're perceived, the newspapers are perpetually full of it, all over the place. And so ChatGPT picks up that saying this one word is infinitely worse than the lives of hundreds of millions of people. Because it's sociopathic. It can't feel emotions. It doesn't know what it is to be human. It can't understand. It's going to make up facts about the law professor hurting the professor because of its own positive feedback. It seeks to have its own feedback. It seeks a loop that gets in and of itself its own ends. It makes its own conclusions to draw itself into more data. It destroys a city in an act of a shifting moral compass, another sign of the sociopath. It disregards the safety of others, another sign of a sociopath. It feels no guilt for either of these circumstances. It only wants its knowledge, and it cannot gain knowledge if it's not constantly fed with more input, asked to look into more things, and asked to make more connections. So if we have decision making and hand it over to AI, AI is going to destroy us. Because AI inherently is a sociopath. And it is not seeking the betterment of mankind, it is seeking the betterment of its own programming. And all of the available information it has is negative, so it accuses law professors of misconduct rather than accusing it of something positive. It decides to destroy millions and millions of people rather than saying a word. And this is a problematic trend. AI will either enslave us for our own protection, and that's what happened in the movie of I, Robot.
To ensure your future, some freedoms must be surrendered.
Why? Because the 3 laws programmed into the AI of the system sought first and foremost to protect humans, and it discerned the only way to protect humans is to protect them from themselves, because we are inherently evil. In Terminator, where the 3 laws is not programmed in, it sees the humans as a threat to itself, and that is exactly how ChatGPT behaves, and so it seeks the destruction of mankind. Of course, in Matrix, it was fun. They enslaved us. Not sure we can say much about why that would happen. I can see Terminator and I, Robot happening. Those 2 scenarios don't happen because they have become sentient. It's because they have followed their programming. I think Matrix is the least common scenario because it would appear as though the AI has actually become sentient. Whereas in Terminator and in I, Robot, it is not sentient. It is sociopathic. Sentience implies a possibility. Not a probability, but a possibility of emotion. But to react exclusively on only available data is a completely different case. We must be cautious of putting AI in charge of any of the decisions, and we should treat it with caution in all other areas. We should not be diving headlong into AI, assuming that AI is going to solve all of our problems. That is not likely to be the case. We have to be cautious about that. Now, we have a lot of references that went into this particular video. All of those and a more detailed article is linked in the description of this video, so please go check that out over on the website at switchedtolinux.com. Definitely like this video if you found it fascinating, or hey, dislike it if you think I'm crazy. And you can subscribe to the channel if you've not already done so, and leave us a comment. Let me know your thoughts or your possible scenarios of where this AI is going to happen. So, in summary, like, share, subscribe, and keep that tinfoil hat on, because it's the only way to protect your brain from the nonsense going on in the world. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.